it's Vanessa from Unmasked. We've been following the bizarre and very tragic case of Debbie Collier out of Habersham County, Georgia, for a few weeks now. Debbie's body was found nude and partially burned on September 11th. If you haven't heard of this case, I'm going to walk you through the timeline, give you all the latest updates through today and what we know so far. I'm also going to point out what I believe to be some major red flags. These are just my opinions, of course. This is definitely one of the stranger cases that we've come across recently. Before we get started, don't forget to take out your daily frustrations by punching those like and subscribe buttons. Also, please share this video and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of my upcoming videos. Okay, let me give you some background first so we're all kind of brought up to speed before we get into updates and all of that. Debbie Collier was a 59-year-old mother and grandmother that lived in Athens, Georgia. She'd been married to her husband, Steve, since 2013, and she has 2 adult children. Both of her children are grown. She has a son who's married with kids of his own and a daughter, Amanda, who is 36. Amanda has a live-in boyfriend named Andrew, who is an ex-MMA fighter. Neighbors describe Debbie and Steve as reclusive and say they didn't really participate in neighborhood get-togethers or activities. Friends of the couple have also said that Steve is a wonderful guy, that he is head over heels in love with Debbie and would not be capable of doing anything to her. Neighbors also reported that they would frequently hear fighting on the weekends and sometimes at night when a younger woman would come over to visit. Amanda and her boyfriend had been living in Maryland, but recently decided to move back to Georgia. They moved back to Athens on September 8th. On September 9th, Amanda's boyfriend stated that they saw Debbie and she bought them lunch. They claimed that this was the last time they ever saw her. During this time, Debbie was driving a rental Chrysler Pacifica. Her normal car was in the shop after a paint can fell from a moving vehicle and struck her car back in August. Now, the timeline that we have so far is extremely important, so I'm going to get into it. The neighbors reported hearing some fighting coming from the Collier's home on the evening of September 9th, which was a Friday. Debbie's husband, Steve, says he went to bed at 9 p.m. on Friday because he had to work all day on Saturday. Debbie and Steve sleep in separate beds due to his snoring. That's just, one of those facts to keep in mind because a lot of people would think, why wouldn't he see her the next day? But that explains that. According to Steve, this was the last time he ever saw his wife was when he went to bed at 9 p.m. The next morning he left for work and her rental car was still in the driveway. However, he did not physically see her, and investigators have verified that he was at work parking cars from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, there are some giant holes in this story that's been given to the public, and there's some giant holes in the timeline so far, but I think that's intentional. On September 10th, which was a Saturday, not much is really known publicly anyway about Debbie's movements until around 2 p.m. This is interesting to me, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So here's where things get weird. At 2:17 p.m. Eastern Time, cameras captured Debbie's rental vehicle heading northbound on Highway 15 towards a Family Dollar Tree store in Clayton, Georgia. So at 2:55 p.m., Debbie is seen on camera wearing a red shirt entering the store alone with a very calm demeanor. Doesn't seem like she's in any danger or has anything stressful on her mind. And she purchases a rain poncho, 2 rolls of paper towels, a refillable torch lighter, and a tarp. She then pays for these items with a card and leaves the store and gets back in her car at 3:09 p.m. So after she gets back in her car, she sits there in the parking lot for 10 minutes. At 3:17 p.m., her daughter Amanda states that she received a Venmo from Debbie in the amount of $2,385. So written, allegedly by Debbie, in the memo of the transaction was the following, quote, "They're not going to let me go. Love you. There's a key to the house under the blue flower pot." I don't even know where to start with this message. We'll get into that. So immediately after the Venmo was sent at 3:17, Debbie's phone is shut off. She is then seen pulling out of the parking lot at 3:19 p.m. The strange Venmo message allegedly caused Amanda to become worried, as according to her, it is out of character. So Amanda then states that she tried to call her mom several times and get a hold of her, and it just went straight to voicemail. So I guess my first question going through this timeline is, if you received this strange message at 3:17, you add in the time of her trying to get a hold of her and it's going to voicemail, what was Amanda doing between, 3:30-ish and 6 p.m. when Debbie was reported missing? That has not been put out publicly, but I think that's obviously a huge part of this, and probably where a lot of these subpoenas are coming in and phone records, because that window of time is extremely critical. And if you were that worried, then why would the call not be placed until 6 p.m.? So we know that Amanda claims that after she tried to get a hold of her mother, she went driving around looking for her at some of her favorite stores, like Ulta, I believe, and Target was another one. So it will be interesting to see, when more information is available to the public, what actually went on during those hours. There were 3 911 calls made. One was from her husband, Steve, when he got home from work. One is from her daughter, Amanda, and one is from Debbie's sister. I'm going to play some clips of those calls for you, but all 3 calls in their entireties are linked below in the description.
Yes. Came home, my wife wasn't home, her driver's license still in there, the rental car's gone, and her daughter's here, and we were kind of worried about what's happening and where she's at. I was wondering if you could send somebody over here.
Okay. Does she have any medical issue? Does she have like Alzheimer's or something like that?
No. She's 59 years old. No, she has no medical issues, something like that. And according to her daughter, who went up and her purse is still here with her driver's license. The only thing is the phone is gone, and she sent her daughter a text about 2 hours ago saying they won't let me go. Whatever that means, we don't know. And I've been gone all day parking cars for the football game and that's where we're at.
Clark County Police.
Yes, sir. My name is Diane Shirley, and my sister lives in Georgia, and my niece told me she was missing. Her name is Deborah Collier, or she could go by Debbie.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if y'all have any information about it.
As far as, no, not other than with the officer or whoever is working on the case. I don't know anything. Where does she live? Do you know?
All I know is, I'm sorry, I don't know her address. Collier.
Okay.
Collier.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any information. When there's something, they will contact the family. Whenever they have something for that.
Okay.
All right.
We're just not getting information, so I'm just.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I am really worried about my sister.
Okay.
And.
You know, do you have any information where she might go, or you have anything to add?
Well, from my niece, she said that she was in an accident about a month ago, and she was, on the road. She was following this truck, and this truck lost a paint can, and the paint can hit my sister's car, and the paint went everywhere. And the driver was trying to convince my sister not to tell the cops that he was driving because he was out on parole, and there was, a stipulation to his parole that he couldn't drive.
Hi, my name's Amanda Bearden, and I filed a missing persons report on my mother last night, or yesterday, excuse me, and I was just wondering if maybe I could speak with the detective that's been assigned to her case.
Do you have any further information?
I sure do. Do you want the case number?
Give me the case number so I can look it up.
Oh my God! I didn't mean. I'm sorry. I'm not in a clear mental state. This is my mother that's missing. I just wanted to talk to them. I wanted to see if maybe there was something that I could do. I do have the rental agreement number if they needed that. That's the only thing that I have to offer. So maybe because she was in a rental car I do have her rental agreement number. If they could maybe trace the GPS in it. Okay,
And we've got the bolo out for her. We got everybody, keeping their eyes peeled for her and that kind of thing. So,
I'm not trying to be a smart aleck here or anything, but do I need to hire a private detective maybe? Because I mean, and I'm not trying to be ugly or anything, but I don't understand why I know you don't know everything, of course, but why it hasn't, what I've asked being done, why isn't the GPS in her van being traced? Do I need a private detective to do that? I mean, I'm not trying to be ugly or anything.
I know.
I just, the most help.
Okay, so here's the thing. She's an
She's an adult.
Right.
I got it.
So that makes things a little more difficult because people are allowed to leave and go and do things without telling other people. And I know that's not a good answer. I understand that. But that is also, that is also part of it because she is an adult. So it just takes some time also to do these things. And so I don't specifically know what they've done.
On the morning of Sunday, September 11th, Amanda did call into 911 and ask them why they hadn't been able to track her mom's GPS yet. Later that morning, police were able to ping Debbie's location through the satellite radio in her rental vehicle. They tracked her vehicle to a heavily wooded area in Clarksville, Georgia, which is over an hour away from her home. It was parked and abandoned on the side of the road. After they found her car and saw that it was empty, they used canine units to try and find her. The dogs led them about a quarter mile into the woods and down this kind of steep ravine. And at the bottom of this ravine, they saw Debbie's partially nude and badly burned body. She was laying on her back and her right hand was still clutching a tree. Just absolutely horrific. The exact time reported was 12:44 p.m. Eastern Time, and some of the items that Debbie had been seen earlier that she had purchased at the Family Dollar Tree store were burned and scattered up the hill. Her body was found next to a pile of burnt leaves, and there was an uprooted tree that was also burned. Later on, an unfired bullet was located near the location where her body was found, but it's unclear if it's connected to Debbie's case at this time. No cause of death has been released yet. Here's where I want to note some big red flags that jumped out at me. Of course, these are just my opinions. They do not mean anything other than that. So red flag number 1, the key under the blue flower pot reference. If Debbie doesn't trust Amanda and her boyfriend with a key to the house, I'm assuming they cannot come over unless Steve or Debbie is home. That's just an odd thing to put into a message when you're allegedly under duress and possibly being held hostage. In my opinion, it seems like a CYA type of message in case someone goes into the house while Debbie is missing. For whatever reason, that part of the message is suspicious to me. Hopefully, we will find out more about that in the future. Okay, so the second one was the use of they in the Venmo message. So I always try to put myself in the situation in these cases. And I understand that everyone's different, but you can apply common sense and the most probable reactions under many circumstances. Using they would imply a familiarity. So let's first remember that investigators have ruled out kidnapping. So who is they? It almost sounds like she expects the person on the other end to know exactly who she's talking about. And it's just not, that is not a message I would ever leave my kids unless I was A, under duress, or B, it wasn't me writing it. Also, if any of us even had access to our phone, which we wouldn't be given if we were being held against our will, I'd call 911. So it makes no sense. I think that this message is going to be the undoing, luckily, of whoever did this. Second, she had just come out of the store looking completely relaxed and is reportedly in her vehicle alone at that exact time. Again, the term they makes no sense and is a big clue in my opinion. So that ties into red flag number 3 I noticed right off the bat, which is the 911 calls. Like I said before, I have all 3 911 calls in their entireties linked in the description below, but above you heard clips of them. Something that immediately jumped out is that Debbie's husband appears to be getting all of his information from Amanda. In fact, everyone is getting their information from Amanda. That's a problem. You hear Debbie's sister recount the paint can accident, which is told by Amanda. We now know that that was exaggerated. Amanda had told her aunt that it was a felon that she had hit, and he had begged her not to turn him in and call the cops. Yet a lot of news outlets have dug, and that is not true. So we also know that she has a history of maybe saying things that are not true. So everyone getting their information from her is, yes, a huge problem. During her husband's 911 call, Steve Collier tells the authorities that Debbie has left her purse, credit cards, and driver's license at home. However, we know that that's not true. Investigators have verified that her purse and phone were found at the scene. But all of those facts that he's getting from Amanda, if you take it all away and you just talk about the purse and the driver's license and the cards, that's a hard fact to get wrong, because one would assume that you visually laid eyes on those items before definitively telling police that she left them behind. The next red flag that stood out to me is Amanda and her boyfriend Andrew's criminal history. Again, I am not accusing anyone of anything. However, in all of these cases, we look at everything in totality and every fact matters. So it's worth noting that Amanda has prior arrests for battery, faking a drug test, and domestic violence. Her latest incident with the law was in May 2021 when she falsely accused her boyfriend of breaking into her house and attacking her. Her boyfriend Andrew was arrested in September of 2021 for violating a restraining order that Amanda had on him. He in turn accused her of stealing money from him to buy drugs, yet they are back living together. The next red flag to me was the Venmo payment history of Debbie, because if you look up the Venmo, you can see that she's been paying Amanda since August. In addition to that, on the day that she disappeared, why the specific amount? Why $2,385? It's not a rounded number. Why that specific amount and only to her daughter? Nothing was sent to her son. He didn't get a message. Furthermore, investigators have already said they don't know where the money is. I don't know if that's just a trick with the words because they don't have all of the warrants in place yet, but obviously the police can track the money until it's cash. So whatever happened to the money after it hit Amanda's account would be interesting when we finally find that out. So you've got the pattern of Debbie giving Amanda money for the past month. We also know the neighbors heard a fight the night before. Was the fighting about money? I did see some new information that came out yesterday that was very interesting. I read it on Crime Online, but Crime Online cited Fox News as the source. Apparently, the amount of money that was Venmoed to Amanda is, quote, very close to the amount of money her boyfriend Andrew owes in probation fees. According to law enforcement sources, his fees have still not been paid. In addition to that, police originally said that they acted on a tip that Amanda was at the family Dollar Tree store, but then they corrected it and said that it was actually Debbie. That's bizarre in itself, in my opinion. It makes me wonder if she was seen there and they've changed their statement for other reasons. I personally do not believe that Debbie was alone in her rental car when she went to the family Dollar Tree. I believe at least one person stayed in the car while they sent Debbie into the store to buy those specific items. The other thing that's incredibly creepy to me is that those items that she purchased are all items to help hide a body. That makes me think that there was some premeditated plan to have her be the only one seen on camera and use her card as an alibi. It's so incredibly sick if she was unknowingly buying items to clean up her own murder. If Debbie was randomly going on some excursion in the woods that gloomy Saturday, one would think that her husband would at least have some awareness of it, especially when he was supposed to get off work at 4 p.m. You can hear from the 911 call that she normally goes grocery shopping on Saturdays, and he has no idea about what is going on. He sounds totally confused. I have thought of this every which way, and I cannot think of a scenario where Debbie is alone in the car that makes any sense to me. Investigators have executed a search warrant on Amanda's home, which reportedly lasted for hours. Her boyfriend has complained to reporters that they are being treated like suspects and has also recently stated that they are in fear after Debbie's murder and have barricaded themselves in their home. I think that investigators are obviously being very careful with their wording, but it is also very telling. Investigators stated that this was not a random act of violence and was deliberate, personal, and that she was targeted. The most recent update I have seen is that the FBI has now confirmed that they are assisting in the investigation. Those are my thoughts so far on this case. I'd really like to hear what you guys think happened to Debbie Collier. Please tell me your thoughts in the comments below. This is a heartbreaking case. Her husband, Steve, has recently been seen looking devastated and called Debbie the love of his life. Anyone with information on Debbie's case is asked to contact the Habersham Sheriff's Office at the number below. Investigators are still waiting on some search warrants and results from the crime lab to be approved before announcing anything more in the case. We'll keep you updated on any new developments. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you all stay safe and have a wonderful week.